I want to thank you all for coming, and I am happy to be welcoming Mark Epstein of the City of Bainbridge Island today. Mark is going to be talking a little bit about this project that is getting underway in earnest now, although I know the work to get us to this point has not been trivial, to look at Bainbridge Island's sustainable transportation plan. And I guess that we're at the point now where we as citizens can get pretty actively engaged. So thank you, Mark, for coming and telling us about the plan and where we're going from here.
Great. Thank you, Reed. Thanks for the invitation. And hopefully Ruth will come on soon. She is not only part of the Senior Center, but also one of our Sustainable Transportation Task Force members. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But it's really nice to see all your faces. I'm sort of so isolated here in my little bedroom that it's great to see other people. So what I'd like to do is just give you a little overview and about the plan. I'm not sure how much you've heard about it to date, but we're trying to get the word out, especially for getting feedback from island residents over this next couple weeks, and in particular for a virtual community meeting that we're going to be having on Thursday night. And I'll show you a little bit about that. So let me just take a little poll. I can see most of your faces now. How many of you have heard something about the Sustainable Transportation Plan yet? Okay, so maybe about half of you. So, okay, well, for those that have heard it, it'll be a reinforcement. For those that haven't, this will be new. So I have a few slides I'd like to share. And let me just find that real quick. All right, can you see that now?
Yep, that's great.
Great. Okay, good. So first, I just wanted to say that we have this online open house. We launched it last week, and we're hoping that everybody will take some time to go online if you're able to and visit the online open house. There's lots of good information there. You can actually register for the virtual community meeting, and actually I might be able to. Let me see if I can switch my screens. Hold on a second, and actually take you to the website if I can. See if I can do that.
Yep, right. We see sustainabletransportation.bi.com.
You can see the website. Yeah,
yes.
There you go. Okay, very good. So this is when you go to sustainabletransportationbi.com, this is what you'll see. And across the top of the screen there, you'll be able to click on any particular thing to get you right to it, either about the plan, the timeline. This is the fun part, the share your ideas part. And this is the part I hope you'll scroll down to look at, because in here we have some really interesting things. I really love this. This is where we're trying to gauge the community's values. And in the color wheel, you'll see there's lots of different values here, and they're grouped into quality values, social values, economic values, or performance values. And we're asking you to pick 3 of those values that are most important to you. So if sustainability is one, it'll show up there on the right-hand side, or safety would be another, or having good options would be a third. And if you try to do a fourth, it won't let you. So if you want to change your mind, just go back and click on the one you want to get rid of, and then it'll allow you to pick a third one. So that's really fun. And then we have a whole series of questions about how you travel around the island. And this is all just like getting at, excuse me, which values are most important to you. And that's going to really help shape some of the decisions that are made further down the road on this plan. And then you all received a mailer, if you're a resident on the island, that has, what's your big idea? And we're hoping you'll share that. If you post office had a problem and lost some of the tear off portions, if that happened to you, you can still go online here and share your big idea with us here, and just type it in what you want and hit submit. Or you could download a card if you prefer to do it on paper, and then either type it in, take a picture of it, and email it to me, or upload it right here on this website. And this is sort of some of the sharing that the Sustainable Transportation Task Force did when they were there. And then there's just more information about staying involved and a bunch of resources, and then contacts, was my emails on there, and then help asking you to. There's also another website, city website, that's not quite as pretty as this one, but it has all the information that's been going on about the project throughout. So any questions about that?
So when I got this in the mail, I noticed that it wanted me to take a selfie. Is that what do you tell me a little bit about that?
We'd love that. If you hold up your big idea card and take a picture, it's just really fun. We've gotten a few already. I think you'll see one at the end of my presentation. It's just a fun way to share ideas with other people in the community. Okay, so I'm going to go back to just the presentation. There we go. Okay, so this is just some of the things we want you to do on the website. We'll go through that. I'll tell you a little bit about the plan itself. I'm just give you a little background before I talk about what's included in it. So the whole thing started, it's really a council-driven project. And back in January of last year, January 2019, the council came up with a 10-year strategy for sustainable transportation on the island. There were discussions throughout the spring, and in the summer of 2019, we hired a consultant. That consultant was Nelson Nygaard. They're a leader in transportation planning nationwide. So we felt really good, and we had really good firms all compete for that. So we felt really good about our hire, and they've been doing a great job for us so far. In the fall of 2019, they researched a bunch of best practices, both academic and professional, and came up with a very lengthy and informative document, and that can be accessed also on the city's webpage, the project webpage. And you can access that by going to Public Works, I think, and then looking up projects and then sustainable transportation. In the winter of 2019, we finalized a scope of work for the project, and that was all council approved. January of this year, we formed our Sustainable Transportation Task Force and a technical advisory team. The task force is made up of 21 citizens, and we had council was involved in the selection of that and approved the committee formation. And we thought we tried for, and I think we got a pretty good cross section of the community, both young and old, men and women, people in different parts of the island, different types of transportation users. So we tried to get as broad a representation as we could within that group. And then we have a technical advisory team that is made up of all of our partner organizations that would have some impact to transportation and in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. And I'll get to the goals in a minute. And the members on that are Washington State Ferries, Washington Department of Transportation, Kitsap Transit, the school district, the park district, city staff, and I might be forgetting somebody, but it's a really good group, and it's really exciting, those conversations, because I think by having conversations that don't happen between organizations very much, and I think there seems to be a synergy happening that I think is going to create some really good actions down the road. So in February 2020, we had the first meetings of both the task force and the technical advisory team, and that was right before we had the COVID restrictions in March. So in March, everything came to a halt and got put on hold until June of this year, where we worked during the interim and finding ways that we could still continue the project virtually. And this online open house and the virtual community meeting came out of that. So we're really trying to put a big push to try to get as many people as we can, because we're not able to meet everybody in person. Then in July, we had our second meeting about the task force and the technical advisory team. And just a couple weeks ago, or last week, in August, early August, our online open house launched, the website that I just showed you. And then again on Thursday, this Thursday, August 20th at 7 p.m., we're having the virtual community meeting. So any questions about the history? Yeah, feel free to interrupt me anytime you want.
I have a question. My name is Marianne, and I have a
Hi.
question about your values. I noticed that on the value wheel, you don't have aging in place. And I think as we get older, it's a very important issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely it is, and how that affects. There is opportunity on the website to include things like that, and so I'm hoping, you know, if you're scrolling down, you'll take that opportunity to include things that maybe aren't on that list. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Included in the plan. The city council wanted a bold plan, big ideas, and create a whole new vision for how people move around on the island. And they're going to be goals and targets that this is really the phase that we're in now. Then the consultant's going to use a technical analysis that will help identify what changes could be made. And then they're going to come up with a whole list of priority projects and changes to programs and policies that help support those projects, help support the goals. And then also it was very important to council and others that this plan be implementable, that it's not just another one that just sits on the shelf and doesn't get acted on. So they're going to come up with both a near-term action plan and a longer-term implementation plan that also includes ways to fund the projects. And so all that list, the recommendations are all going to come out of these values and goals exercise that we're going through now. So that's why it's so important that we get as much input as we can. Just quickly, this is a high-level timeline for the project. We're here in July and August, the green on the left, and so we're in the vision, goals, and performance measures. We're going to go through an evaluation framework this fall, identify some of the program and policy things that can be changed through the winter, and then the near-term action plan will be next spring, 2021, and plan approval. We're pushing that out a little bit because we're extending our engagement phase right now. So it'll probably be about June that we're now hoping for plan approval. So this talks a little bit about how we're traveling now, and these slides are taken right out of the presentation that's going to be given on Thursday night. So it's just a few of the slides that I thought would be interesting that sort of give a introduction to the plan. But we're going to do a little comparison about how, what are the demographics of the island and how we travel here. And what's interesting about this slide is this is comparing Bainbridge Island to Kitsap County and the mode split. So mode split is just differences in how people move around. So those that work from home, either bike or motorcycle, walking's in the light blue, and public transportation in the sort of peachy pink. Carpooling's that thin slice of green, and then drive alone is still majority share. But the one thing that's interesting about this is that Bainbridge Island has a pretty good mode split already. We do a pretty good job. Only 44% of folks are driving alone. But we're going to reduce that by even more. One of the mode shift goals is to reduce drive alone trips to 25% rather than the 44 that's currently there. And you'll see that in a minute too. But here's the main goal, and this was set by the city council. The city, through their climate action plan and other actions, are wanting to reduce transportation related emissions by 90% by the year 2045. So this sustainable transportation plan has that goal as sort of the guiding principle. And some of the ways we're going to help achieve that goal is by changing our mode splits to reduce the drive alone modes. And then there were 6 sort of supportive goals, and these are draft goals. We've been discussing this with council, and also this will come out of the engagement plan that's current, or the engagement phase that we're currently in now. So of the 6, it's there. I'll just go through these quickly because you can read them yourself. You know, just having 0 traffic-related accidents by the year 2045. Equity is just, you know, making sure that the hardships don't fall disproportionately on a certain population. We talked about the mode shift, reducing that drive alone mode to 25%.
Mark, this is
Yes.
Ruth.
Hi, Ruth.
Once the plan is approved, what happens next?
Well, you're skipping ahead, but that is a good question. Well, there's going to be an implementation plan, like we talked about, and then I think the work is going to be to see what comes out of that plan, and then see how that can be implemented. So there could be a number of options that come out of the plan. Certainly, there'll be changes to the capital improvement plan that will address the projects that come out of that. There could be different strategies for funding, such as a levy or a bond to maybe fund some of these projects, or sort of how they'll be funded and what the split is in funding. So there will be a bunch of different scenarios that the consultant's going to come up with, and the scenarios will be based on what the values and goals that we're hearing now, what kind of actions would be taken from that, and then how they could be funded. And so the scenarios will maybe differ based on differing values and goals, which is why it's so important we get that now. That's going to be the interesting part. And so then what next after the plan is done is, okay, we're going to pick a scenario and say these are the actions that we need to do, and we're going to follow those actions. That's the plan at this point.
I'm going to jump in here and just let people know that Ruth Flanagan is a member of the board of directors of the Senior Center, and is also serving on the sustainable transportation
task force. Yeah, right.
So she is a good person to contact if you have suggestions or implementation ideas, as well as obviously participating in the virtual open house.
Right, and I'm going to ask Ruth to talk a little bit about her experience with that and what the task force is tasked to do. So just finishing up on the draft supportive goals, we want to make whatever occurs to be comfortable and accessible, connected and convenient. Those are pretty self-evident. And then the implementation part that Ruth was alluding to is making sure our values and decisions are in line with what we can do with the limited space we have in the public right-of-way. And there's a lot of words on the slide, but so just to try to encourage people to come out and tell us what their values and goals are. So they'll help refine those, and then the existing conditions, which the consultant's also compiling now with mostly maps, just to see what it is, where our facilities are, but also, you know, how they're being used and who's using them. And then we'll identify where what projects and policy changes need to occur to help fill those gaps. And then the values and goals will help us just put those in order of what to do next. And here's one photo that somebody already did with their big idea. So you're welcome to send us yours. We really like this. And these are just things that you can do. Go to the online open house, share your ideas, and please encourage your associates, family, neighbors, and friends to help participate. Because without that, actually it's critical. I can't say even without that. You can also sign up for email updates at that link shown below there. And whenever there's something happening, we send out a mass email to those that are signed up on that list. So it's an opt-in list, and you can always opt out at any time. Go there and it'll walk you through signing up. And then the project website on the city is the repository for all the documents that are produced, and all the meeting agendas for both the task force and the technical advisory team. And that might be a good segue for me. I'm finished finished up, just to have Ruth say a few words about what she's been doing with the task force, and I'll stop sharing.
Well, I'm not sure that I can give much information, but my idea of joining the task force was to be representative for those of us who have mobility issues and travel issues. You know, if you don't have a car, how to get around town easily and inexpensively. And some of these things are kind of what my goal for joining the task force were. And I know that I found that several of the other people on the task force have some of the same goals. So I think it's a good way to get a good cross section from the young people who want good bike trails to the older people who want an easier way to get around town, and plus the fact that we want to limit the amount of carbon in the air, obviously. So I think it's a good idea, and I'm just hoping that we can come up with a plan that will be easily and comfortably and inexpensively implemented so that it can go forward.
I did mute you, Mark, because we were hearing you shuffle papers around, and it should be fairly easy to unmute when you have something to say. One of the things that struck me in Mark's slides was that bicycles represent 5% of the use of one of the modes of transportation around here. They certainly are a more vocal percent of the transportation than I was going to say, 20 or 30% based on just the sense of how many people bike here. And I know there are a lot of seniors who are depending on public transportation, and that is one that shows up pretty high in Mark's chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point, Reed. Yeah, it's true. That's why we need to hear from more people. Bicycling is going to be probably a big part of it, but public transportation also has to be, which is why we're including our partners at the ferries and Kitsap Transit. Feel free, these big ideas, try not to be constrained about your ideas about what's going to help you get around the island more or better. I've come up with quite a few of my own, but if you want to hear what other people have to say.
Marianne?
Yes, I am interested in thinking about not only driving alone, but high volume use. Like what is the big issues that people use their car for? And for me, I was trying to think, well, the post office would be great if it electrified, but then I thought that's federal. And then I was thinking, well, a lot of people go to the doctors in Seattle, and if there can be a carpooling to the major hospitals, that may be beneficial to a certain demographics and also address the high volume use of driving alone.
Good. Yep. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
Yeah. Does anybody else have a question either about the process or sort of how this is going to be narrowed or where you might fit in the discussion?
Hi, Reed. This is Laura. I have a quick question for Mark.
Great.
I'm just curious, when you showed the mode splits, is that the work, like the how people get to and from work, or is that an all-day split? Because I know those can be different.
Yeah, I think we only have data right now on just the commute times. So yeah, and they are different. And since we have such a high percentage of people that are working from home, and most of our commuters are commuting off the island, you'll see, I think on Thursday night, there's other slides that show a little bit more demographics about how many people are leaving the island, and how many people are coming to the island for work, which is also another segment that sort of gets forgotten about sometimes, about those folks and how they get to work here on the island. But yeah, you're right. Most of those trips, I think most of those drive alone trips are errands by people that are are living and or working on the island and not leaving during commute times. That's a good point.
This is Richard Herzog. I was multitasking, so I may have missed a little bit here. But one of the things that I would note would be how helpful IVC, the organization, is to this overall effort. Because for one thing, it makes it really, really easy for me to have totally given up my own automobile, because combining IVC with public transportation and some of the other things makes it really incredibly easy all 7 days of the week for me to go wherever I want to go. And I think the 7 day a week thing is very important. From me, it strikes me because I do spend some time, or in the past, I did spend some time in the winters at a place that I have in Florida, which likes the world to think that it is the Mecca for senior citizens. However, when you're there, if you don't want to drive yourself, you're pretty tied down on the weekends and in the evenings because of the fact that the public transportation is so far worse than what we have here in Washington State and on Bainbridge. So those are a couple of observations.
Yeah, I think the idea that you raised there about who is going to, how this is going to be solved, it might not all be a government solution, right, Mark?
That's right. Yeah, there could be private companies that are get involved. Well, there already are, right, with ride sharing and things like that. But there's lots of different solutions. Can someone tell me what IVC is and how it works?
Island Volunteer Caregivers is a nonprofit that actually the Senior Center works very closely with, and they have volunteers who help get people to medical appointments and shopping, and also they do a lot of life enrichment activity. They certainly have helped a lot of members of the Senior Center get down to the Senior Center, and during the pandemic, they've also helped out with things like grocery shopping. Island Volunteer Caregivers is a wonderful organization and a close partner of ours, and I would see that as a volunteer aspect that would play very much into the spirit of the island and a way to make these solutions affordable.
Excellent, thanks. I hope someone writes that down.
Normally, one of the key people at IVC attends these meetings, and I noticed that she wasn't here, which is why I wanted to bring it into the conversation, because it does play a magnificent role in this whole effort here for us senior citizens.
Great, thanks. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I think one of the problems for IVC, however, of late has been finding enough volunteers to handle and meet the needs of the senior community. So an electric circulator bus that would get us around town or something of that nature would take possibly some of the load off of them, and they could concentrate more on the farther distant types of things.
Yeah, we actually worked with them, Ruth, at the center, because they were having a hard time finding folks who could do regular monthly trips to Silverdale. They had, as a matter of course, been giving people a ride to go to Costco or Trader Joe's, places that if you don't have a car, it's pretty hard to get to. And we cooperated with them, and we're using the senior bus pre-pandemic to once a month do those trips. And I think that there are ways that organizations can blend with private companies and with municipalities and with transportation organizations to try to get some of this done. But there probably will need to be some money from somewhere, right, Mark? Before this is all said and done.
Yeah, the need always is greater than the ability to fund it. So yeah, that's where the goals and values come in prioritizing things.
But I think thinking in terms of some volunteering types of things would help with that expense.
Yes,
possibly.
it certainly will. But as Reed points out, the collaboration between IVC and the Bainbridge Senior Center and IVC and the barn and all kinds of other things contributes to this whole sustainability thing very effectively also. And as I guess Reed or Mark did observe, there's not going to be a single solution, but there is going to be a very effective solution, especially here in the Pacific Northwest.
So, Mark, I wonder if you might be able to tell us a little bit how the early response to the flyer and to the publicity is going.
Better than I expected. Just a couple of at the end of late last week, and the website had only been up for maybe 5 days or so, and we had already had about 250 unique responders, about over 300. Some people are coming back, so you can certainly go back and answer the questions at any time. The mailers, I haven't have a count, but there's a pile of responses that are on my desk right now that I haven't been able to go through them yet. But so far so good. But again, we mailed it out to all 23,000 residents on the island, so we're hoping to get as many as we can. Hopefully we get everybody.
Yeah, and so it looks like we have a little while here. The timeline that you laid out gives us another 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah, the online open house will be open through Labor Day, so we have until the holiday to get that in, and then we'll start compiling what the results are after that, and we'll publish that shortly thereafter.
And then there'll be an opportunity to respond to those results?
There's always opportunities to respond.
Good.
That's why my the city webpage is always there, and my email is out there. So yep, there's always that opportunity for dialogue. I'm happy to hear from anybody.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm hesitant to say it because I will sound like an anti-biker, and I'm not. I believe in bicycles, but I live on Ferncliff, and I get Chilly Hilly, and I get all this stuff. And when we improve things, can we have direct the bikes, direct them to trails and beaches or something to direct them? Because we get a lot of off-island bicycle people, and I don't want it to interfere when I do have to go someplace, because it has in the past.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. That'd be a good comment to put down. And there are a lot of people, both bicyclists and then non-bicyclists, who want separated trails and off-road trails, because when they think it's going to increase the ages and abilities of people that will use that alternative form of transportation, not even alternative, just a different form of transportation. But yeah, it'll make it safer for people driving as well.
And we do see the world changing a little bit. I see a lot more electric bikes out there, which is going to scoot into this senior population a little bit.
It really has. There is the demographics is changing on bicycle riders. There are a lot more older folks that are getting on bicycles now, because it's one down from a scooter. I mean, how many would ride a scooter if they could? I would. Go ahead. It's a little bit less intimidating than a scooter, maybe, but still you get some exercise as well. So it's a great form of exercise.
We got a question on the chat. Is it possible to get a copy of the mailer still?
Oh, good question. I don't know if there were extras printed. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I can speak to that.
Oh,
It's
Christina. Yeah.
Hi. I tune in. I try to support the senior center, so it's nice to see you, Mark. I usually listen in at lunchtime. There are extra mailers here at City Hall. We can figure out a way to put some maybe mounted on the door with some of the contact strips, so that they're just in a pamphlet holder outside of the Henshaw entrance, if you would like to do that.
That is awesome. We'd love to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be great.
I-
Okay, they'll
I
soon be available outside City Hall.
Richard,
Yes, I of course acknowledge everything that was just said about the electrical bikes and everything. But with regards to what Marianne mentioned, I think we should also note that the city did a fantastic job recently about redoing all of the bicycle lanes and on the streets leading from the ferry and into this, et cetera, et cetera. So somebody has that in mind, Marianne, and I'm sure, especially in view of what was just said about the electrical bikes and everything else, that more of that will happen, especially now that Mark is hearing us.
Yeah, absolutely. We've always, we've done as much as we can with the resources that we have to make all forms of transportation safer, of course. That project on Olympic Drive leading the ferry was a big one, 10 years or more in the works. So it was nice to get that done. The Sound Olympics Trail is another effort to separate, the bicyclists from cars that are going up 305, and also to serve sort of as a spine for a spine trail that'll go out to other connecting trails into different neighborhoods. Interestingly enough, it's not just bikers that benefit. I think most of the users on the Sound Olympics Trail right now are pedestrians, are walkers. A lot of people are using it to get, well, either for exercise or as a way to get into Winslow. So we want to encourage more of that. It's not just a bicycling plan. It's it's a car plan. It's a public transportation plan. It's a walking plan. So we need to. We're really trying to look holistically at all forms of transportation, how people get around the island, how they want to and how they could, both now and in the future. So yeah, we're trying to be bold with the plan as best we can.
so a reminder that there's a live stream event this Thursday, the 20th of August at 7 p.m. And you can find out more information at sustainabletransportationbi.com. And this is not the last time we'll talk about this. Thank you very much, Mark.
Great. Thank you, Reed. Thanks, everybody.